Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm your host, Veteran Mountain Man, and it's another Regulatory Tuesday. Today we're going to discuss actually the San Francisco statute that's going to allow illegal aliens to vote. Now, one of the things I want to bring up is the stipulations for voting are actually detailed very thoroughly in the Constitution of the United States of America. It's one of the powers actually given to the Constitution. The Constitution in and of itself, unlike what many progressives think, is not some sort of guarantor of rights, so much as it is a restriction of power on the federal government. And one of the restrictions that they have is determining citizenship, which is actually detailed out in several amendments as well as the original Constitution. Determining voting statutes for federal races, and dictating that all states must have a constitution as well and function in the form of a republic. Now, that means each state has to then, in turn, have a constitution, and those constitutions dictate the regulations or policies or prescriptions as to who is to vote. Now, voting in that case is a multi-tiered system. And the San Francisco law that was passed is specifically designed to bypass that concept. Because you've got the federal regulation, which states you must be a citizen to vote. And then you've got the state constitutions, which also state that you must be a legal resident of those states to vote. And so, in the city of San Francisco, you must both be a resident of California and a citizen of the United States to vote effectively. Now, what they have basically done is allowed illegal aliens to vote in local-only races. However, we've seen some fundamental problems with the voting system out of California, namely the more than 40,000 illegal aliens registered as citizens to vote already. And this brings up a question of how exactly they plan to regulate this system, how they plan to effectively stop illegal aliens from voting in federal and state elections, and why are they trying to give a privilege to somebody who is failing to follow the law. I mean, entering the United States illegally is still a violation of the law, and if you're deported, you lose the right to attempt to come to America legally for 10 years. That's the federal statute. Many people try to argue that it's just, it's just a regulation. It's not a law, and so because you violated just a regulation, it's not as bad as violating a law. Well, most regulations are just a fine, if you really want to go to that point. Civil regulations, civil statutes are usually a fine. They're not a loss of rights. And the right to come to America for a foreign national, either on a tourist visa or a resident alien visa, or to request asylum or citizenship, is one of those things that's fundamentally managed by the federal government, and so you can't realistically try to state that you have the authority to determine that it's just a statute and not a law. See, laws tend to regard loss of privilege when violated. It's the reason that felons are not allowed to vote. It's a reason that felons are not allowed to own firearms or exercise certain rights. And it's mostly because we have found them to be unlawful in their activity, and by giving them full rights, we could endanger the population further. Yet San Francisco seems to feel that empowering these people to vote, which is an extreme privilege, many countries, not all citizens are even allowed to vote. We need to look to places like South Africa, where they're trying to change their constitution so that only native Africans of African tribal descent are going to be allowed to vote eventually. So they're going to basically disenfranchise most of South Africa in order to take control from them even further. This just seems to be a ploy to purchase votes to maintain a blue party rule in California. And California in and of itself has been a fairly blue state for quite some time. The swing started in the 60s and has continued on to this day. However, there's been a lot of reports lately of changes in political philosophy and viewpoint in California. And it might just be that California starts to swing purple or even red as this continues, because realistically, our system was not designed to be a one-party rule system. Our system was actually designed to be open. And in undermining the rights and privileges of citizenship, they are continuing to alienate the population further instead of actually garnering support from the population. And it's one of those things that I think they need to wake up to. The idea that people who are violating active laws should be given advanced permissions that are only entitled to citizens is rather foolish. Yes, these people are represented by those representatives that are elected, but the Constitution gives voting privilege to citizens, and it is realistically a privilege because you can easily lose it by becoming a felon, by violating the law. And realistically, it's a privilege as well because you also have responsibilities to your country. And I've already done videos on the civics of voting. I've done one recently, in fact, and you can look it up in my playlists. We need to start pushing back on this concept that everybody has the right to everything, because rights and privileges and responsibilities and citizenship are an important distinction and an important part of what makes America America. Now, I feel bad for these people who have come here illegally. I really do. I know that their life sucked in their former country, but one of the things that we are doing now with all of this trying to pander to them and cater to them and make them feel more at home is not actually fixing anything. If anything, it's just making the situation worse. We need to quit pandering to this and actually start managing this as it should be managed. Well, I want to thank you all again for joining me on this Tuesday. Don't forget to like and subscribe or follow me on my other social media sites and platforms. The links are below in the description. Also, don't forget, I run this channel completely pro bono. So if you'd like to buy something from my Teespring or Redbubble store to help support me, that would be amazing. If you'd like to contribute to my Streamlabs, that would be amazing. Every little bit helps. I'm hoping to get my new camera online here soon to give you clearer images and to do some additional videos over the next few days. Thank you all again for joining me, and have yourself a beautiful, beautiful